Thank you all so much. I'm proud to moderate this conversation with wonderful people, many of which you've seen up in the film. I'll start by introducing Nitzan Mintz Dede Bandaid, who are here with us, the creators of the poster campaign. Alana Zeitchik, who's here with us, of course, interviewed in the film and hostage family member. And welcome back, Nim Shapira, the director, producer, and writer of the film. Does everybody have water and microphones? Good. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being a part of this and continuing this. I'll start off with a question to everybody in terms of what you hope the impact of this film would be for an audience.
So I was in Israel on October 7th, and I started volunteering with advertising agencies that basically tried to tell what happened on October 7th. And it was very clear from after 2 or 3 days that we're not kind of like the short-term propaganda or explaining what has happened is being lost. So what I am trying to do in this film is kind of like plan to win, or at least not lose, the long-term war of narratives. And my main focus is, as I said before the film was introduced, compassion. I wanted to show that it's not black and white, that I've been cut off a lot of social circles post-October 7 just because of myself being an Israeli, from people I've known in like colleagues, friends. So this was my way to invite them for a conversation and hopefully start building, the first stone of a bridge. This film has been shown in front of different audiences, but I made it for non-Jews.
Well, we'll see if we got any of that today here at the JCC. Might not be hitting your goals. Alana.
I also know of some.
We won't out anyone. Don't worry. Alana, how about you? What are your hopes for the impact of this film?
I think kind of similarly. I met with Nim before all of this. Like, he told me what he wanted to do, and I said to him, I want to make sure that you show the full picture. Like, I want the story to be real and to be not just our side of it. And I trusted him in doing that because I didn't want to be part of something that fueled propaganda. I'm not interested in telling a story that is, we are right and they are wrong and there is nothing in between. I think there's a lot of right and there is a lot of wrong, and there's a lot of evil on one side and there's evil on the other side. It's kind of everywhere, and we have to break apart that binary. So what I hope is that the film shows you that nothing is binary and that we have a lot of work to do. And since this is a primarily Jewish community, we have a lot of work to do in this community and how we work with others, especially here in New York. There are a lot of communities that we need to be talking to, and we're not. And I think this shines a light on what we need to be doing, and that we need to have real conversations off the pole.
And one last thing that I forgot to say. So the movie was made since January to September 2024. When I started working on the film, in my worst nightmares, I didn't think that the war would still be happening and the hostages would still be in Gaza. So I wanted to capture a zeitgeist of New York, what it was like to be a New Yorker. You hardly see posters in different neighborhoods today. Yes, here you see them, but you don't know that this poster war happened. And this was a war about symbols, and I wanted to talk about symbols and what they mean for people.
Thank you. And we'll follow up on that in a moment, but I want to get to Nitzan and Dede and tell me a little bit about how the campaign has evolved and how where your work is with all of us at this very moment.
Right now?
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, since this campaign started and went viral so fast, we found ourselves working, I say, in or for this campaign for 7-8 months, like straight, 24/7, going to interviews and talking with people all over the world. Becoming campaigners. You know, we never did it before. We both, Nitzan and I, are artists. We just arrived to New York. We're not even New Yorkers. So our life changed completely. And only recently, I would say like 5-6 months ago, we started creating again, going back to creating actually art in a studio, you know, things that we used to do for over a decade and suddenly we didn't do for so long, and because nothing just seemed important anymore besides this campaign. And now when we look back, or we look on our artwork now, I think, I mean, you can see some motives that are maybe the same, but we look and we say, wow, we changed completely. Our art changed completely. It's something else. And so this a little bit for this question, but I will also say, like in a sentence, I relate to what Nimrod said about the previous question about the importance of this movie. We went through so many things in such a short time. It was a roller coaster since this project started. And I personally was afraid that this will be forgotten so fast, with the faces and with the project itself. And I think it's so important to have this piece of document showing and screening and really showing what happened here. It's something huge, it's something big, it's something that maybe we don't even see the full picture now, but we will look back, like, I don't know, in a few years, and we have a different perspective and we'll understand much better.
Has this? You mentioned that it's impacted your art a little bit. How has it impacted? How has your art changed, and maybe also the reactions to your art? How has that changed?
So, because we are new here in New York, reactions here, it's not like we're creating in Israel and then the crowd that used to know us is, we're like giving it a complete different thing. We are here. People don't know us to begin with. So everything new that we will create will be new anyway. But the things that we do create here are super different than what we used to do back home. For example, we were hosted in an amazing residency program in Martha's Vineyard. And it was the first time someone actually took us from the campaign after we were already so exhausted after 8 months of being hunted down by anti-Semites, by pro-Palestinians that one night broke into our apartment, death threats, and really, really bizarre things happened to us. So imagine running from place to place for 8 months, and then suddenly someone takes you from that place and places you in Martha's Vineyard for an amazing art residency. And we were there. They did not expect us to create anything. They did not want anything from us. They just put us there in the quietest place, most beautiful, and told us, do whatever you want. You don't want to create, don't create. So Dede and I just found ourselves walking, cycling around the island. And all we could see in the middle of all that beauty are dead animals all over the place, like carcasses of reindeers or dead birds, or I don't know, it was like a farm and they supply their own meat. They They do it themselves. The chef of the place is raising the chicken and then he's slaughtering them. So it was slaughtering day. And I remember Dad and I were looking around and seeing blood splatters. Everything took us to the kibbutzim, to October 7th. Everything was about death, about blood, and about blood and death in the most beautiful environment you can guess, you can be. So we painted those things, and it's like a new series that we are working on. It's like triggers. It's a triggers series. So this is, for example, one thing.
Wow, and it makes you think about all of the art that's going to come out of Israel and the films that are going to come out of Israel, and really how that how the unconscious is going to impact a lot that's going to be there. Nim, I want to go back to you for a moment and talk a little bit about the evolution of the film and where it went to from where you started to its endpoints. And I know that even for tonight, you wanted to update it in some ways, but I don't know. You didn't have the chance in the end. But how did this film? How did did your vision evolve?
So working on this film while the war is happening, while the hostages are still there, is a challenge. I think that the biggest question was how to end it, and when Elisha, who's sitting over there, and spoke about how he wished the situation would be like, or at least we can honor each other, or the two narratives. It felt like that's the appropriate way to end the film. But yeah, unfortunately, I still need to update it. The original ending, the one I pitched, was Dede and Nitzan going to every pole in New York and tearing the posters because the hostages are back. That didn't happen. That was supposed to be the original ending.
Alana, where are you? How in this? I know this last weekend must have been an emotional roller coaster in many ways, and the fight obviously is not over. Are you more hopeful? Where do you stand in all of this?
It was a very emotional weekend. David will not be in the first phase, so my family is grappling with a hopefulness of some sort, I suppose, of there being a deal signed, but this kind of continued shroud of fear and anxiety about, will we get to phase 2? When will that come? Will it be when it's supposed to? How long will he actually be there? And we're still, what is his state of being right now? The men are very different than the women and how they're treated in some ways. And so I don't know. Hope it's a hard word, and I've said it a lot lately. I don't feel like hope anymore is like a feeling, but it's an action that I have to create for myself. And so in the advocacy and in continuing to fight for the end of this war, for all of the hostages to come home, that's where I find hope. And so I feel motivated as I've ever been. I feel continuously motivated to keep fighting for this to be over and for David to come home as soon as possible. So that's kind of what my version of hope is right now.
Thank you. I want to ask one more question, and then we'll open it to questions from the audience and make you a part of this conversation as well. But I'm kind of going a little bit away from the film here for a moment, and that's part of it that I've been wanting to dive into is the idea that, I mean, the film really focuses on the tear within, I guess, American society in some ways, but there's a tear in Israeli society as well, and we see that both with the government and on the ground. Is that something that you considered putting in the film? Is that something that I mean, this question really goes to everybody in terms of how to manage that tear within Israeli society, and the thought that there are Israelis that don't want a hostage agreement.
So that's a good question. I said earlier that this is a film for non-Jews. So we've had screenings at Harvard University. We're doing 1 in 2 days in Colombia, the first screening out of 3. So we are showing it to a lot of Americans, basically, and the reactions from Jewish audience to an Israeli audience to American audiences are always different. We spoke about it just a tiny bit before the movie started, but when this was screened in Israel on October 7, one of the reviews in the newspaper was like, how can we criticize Americans for tearing down the posters when hostage family members are being treated, forgive my language, my French, like shit in Israel? Moms of hostages are getting threats from hostages that came out, are being cursed at. So, that's an entirely different movie. And you asked me earlier about the film. Like, I was like, I'm working on the film. Then everything in Colombia happened. Should it be in the film? Should it not? Like, it's always like, I wanted to have this in the film, and I wanted to have this in the film. So, yeah, I chose to show New York, and this affected New Yorkers. This affected my life here in New York. But yes, it's very painful that the situation in Israel as well.
You can't cover everything. Anybody else want to comment on the tear within Israeli society? You can avoid it too. It's there's no winning here.
I'll let the citizens start.
It was always like that. It was like that since the 12 tribes. That's what we are.
That didn't end well either.
I know, but we are human beings. We build and we destroy what we build. That's what we do. We don't know only how to build and to build on top and then to build on top. We destroy. This is who we are. We need to face it. We are not that amazing. So the tear was always there. Every time it's a different topic. But now this is extremely painful. This is too painful.
I will add one thing, and I say this to a lot of people in America. There is a tear in Israeli society, but the difference is that even though there are extremists and there are people who are spitting on hostage families, people who are calling my family names, returned hostages in my family names for speaking out and demanding that the government make a deal, there is that, and they're really loud. But a beautiful thing that has happened is actually within the kind of protest movement and the pro-hostage movement, there is really an alliance across the political spectrum in Israel around the hostages. People who are in these protests, you have far left anti-occupation activists who are very vocal and against the government, with people who are considered right-wing, who have voted for Bibi in the past, who might still vote Likud in the future, we don't know. You have all of these people actually together. You have religious people, you have secular people, and so that's a beautiful thing that happens within Israeli society as well, that is, I think, unique to the familial culture that is native to the Middle East, but native to Jewish people and native to Israelis especially, that we don't have in America, that we have to try to find a little bit of in this country and mirror that here.
Thank you. We'd love to make you a part of this conversation.
I should say that on a very hyper local level, much of the film talks about the hostage poster campaign, the stickers that came afterwards in the past tense. And on the Upper West Side, that's not the case. There are 2 tribes of people that put up posters and stickers. On 76th Street, there's a group of moms and their allies that have been continually putting up posters again and again and again, ripped endlessly. And a series, if you should go there, 76th Street, there's a monument to the hostages, those palisades, those colonnades. It's amazing. I have the unique privilege of saying that, of continuing the hostage poster campaign, and I did it through a series of about 500,000 stickers that we printed. And I say this because at a certain point, the stickers, the posters, meant different things to different people. And what those meant, I want to offer this formulation: posters are prayers. Posters are prayers. They're ways that we have actively done something and intended to do something to make something in the world. Whether it caused it, didn't cause it, whatever you believe in prayer, it has the same function. So I really want to just leave that. Posters are prayers. And Alana, if I could say something to you specifically, we will not stop praying until they're home. All of them.
Thank you.
We have a microphone
me?
for you.
Oh, are you going to put this films like at the Quad Theater in the Village and other places?
Where's the film going? What's the plan?
You can see where it's screening next on torn-film.com, and it's basically going nationwide. But it's in events like this. It's in universities, it's at JCCs, but it's also in film festivals, and we're looking at television distribution in the near future as well. So it's going to be at a TV screen sooner also. I think around spring, yeah.
Television is that thing like the internet, but without the... Got it. Thank you.
You mentioned something about the reaction of some colleagues. I was wondering what their reaction was to the film, and also you mentioned that you were at Columbia University yesterday. So I was wondering what the reaction of the students at Columbia University who were non-Jews were.
Columbia is this Thursday, but we had a Harvard screening with people from all over the world, from Venezuela to Egypt to China, and it was really well received.
But it was really well received because the radical group of pro-Palestinians were busy at another event. I'm not kidding. So they bothered them, and our place was cleared.
Where are we? I'll give a question down here in the meantime.
Thank you so much. That was an incredibly powerful film. I wanted to ask about balance, which I think is something you've all kind of mentioned, and I think that really came through in the film. I find it as a challenge that we all think we're balanced. I think we all feel in our own ways that we can tell a balanced story about what's happening, about the war, about everything. And I do feel that in your film, you did manage to paint a picture of some sort of balance. And I'm wondering what your process was for getting that, and how you made sure throughout the film, knowing that you had some sort of personal connection, you all did, to everything that was going on. How did you make a film that feels, to me at least, like it has balance, and it feels like to you that was an important part of the process as well?
Thank you. I went to a film festival and someone asked me about this film, and I talked about this film, and I said that I'm from Israel, and then they asked me, oh, and is this film balanced? So I said, of course it's not. I'm biased because I'm an Israeli Jewish American. So, you know, my hope when again, going back to your question, I wanted to bring people that took down the posters, and I wanted to interview them. Alana's wish was to meet one of them. They didn't answer my emails, my texts, my DMs. So I was, you know, I always say I'm on the Israeli left, and my editor is more to the left. So it was very important to paint a picture of how we can tell this story, but also talk about the casualties, the innocent victims on the other side as well.
And I'll add to that I don't think that there's ever such a thing as a balance. There's always going to be somebody, but what's for sure is that it has nuance, which was so lacking from the conversation that it, I think, is just a smarter way to present the argument. So I applaud that. Caroline is taking a question from up on top.
Hi, thank you so much. Maybe not so much a question, but I think I'm one of the non-Jewish people in the audience. And oh no, thanks. And I just want to say, like, throughout this entire process, over the last so many months, I have witnessed so much compassion and so much nuance in the Jewish community, and I find it I'm incredibly in awe how you manage to find that in you when there's so much hatred and so much violence. And I do think that even now in the audience, when there's questions about how to find that balance or how to find that nuance, I would wish that the same question is asked on the other side. And so I just wanted to say that maybe from a non-Jewish perspective watching this.
I'm grabbing a question down here.
Very jarring film. Excellent. One thing that bothered me, I got out of college in 1977, so I'm a little older than most of the people in the film and here. At that time, the struggle wasn't as strong. The Palestinians were not as vociferous. So it shakes me to see these young kids with such anti-Semitism. And I say to myself, what's going to happen to this country?
Do you all know what's going to happen with this country?
I don't know what's going to
share.
happen. I don't know what's going to happen. I know that a lot of these young kids are living in this country that they're really unhappy with. They have never had a president that they feel represents them. They feel like they'll never own a house or be able to thrive and survive. And whether or not that's true is irrelevant. It's how they feel. And I feel that a lot of them are very vulnerable to falling for the very enticing propaganda of anti-Semitism. We know, you know, I know, we all know that anti-Semitism is the canary in the coal mine. It's what tells us that society is not okay. I think that the kids will be all right, but we have to work to make them feel better, and we have to teach them how to not be anti-Semites. And so I think that it's doable. I think we can do it. I think there's always going to be haters, and I think that there's always going to be haters in the pro-Palestinian community. But I think that when we start having these real life conversations with them, there will be more openness. And when we start working with, for example, I try to engage a lot with Jews who identify as non-Zionist or anti-Zionist, and we arm them with the ability to fight for us in their circles amongst their pro-Palestinian allies. We'll be able to start chipping away at some of this. So I don't take the doom and gloom approach. I feel like it's going to be a lot of hard work, and it is really scary. I'm so with you on that, but I do think that we can solve the problem.
I am the doom and gloom. No, for real. Alana, I love your optimism.
I can't wait to see all of the death work that you're making.
So I'm just the doom and gloom. I don't think that someone is in charge of taking care of all those teenagers. I would definitely agree. If I'll know that there is someone that their job will be to educate them, but there will not be anyone like that. And we are just a minority. I mean, we're not enough people, and we have jobs in life. So I don't think anyone will do it, and I think the seeds already are there. and whatever you say it in English. And I think that we're about to see them sprout. I'm afraid. I'm really afraid. I don't have kids yet, but I will have. And I will need to explain a lot of things to them, like my grandparents used to explain to me. This is part of the cycle of this life. Sorry.
We like the multitude of perspectives here. And I'll say, this film, all of this is a conversation. And one thing that happened after October 7th is that a lot of the conversations stopped. And we need to bring back conversations and never stop talking and having and listening at the same time. There's a lot of hands up. We're not going to have time for everybody, but we'll take one last question up there.
It's a little bit more of a comment. I'm going to try to stay composed. The first thing I just want to say is to everybody that worked on this film and that created these posters, Kol HaKavod. This is just incredible. I have so much respect and admiration for everything you did, and it's very deeply personally meaningful for me. I'm here with my Israeli husband tonight. About a month after the war started, a few blocks from here, I was walking the dog, and two young women were ripping down posters, and I confronted them, and they told me that it was propaganda, AI images, and they proceeded to beat me up and rip off my Star of David and just, tell me to fuck my white privilege and fuck Israel and all these things while calling themselves humanitarians. But a rabbi actually came and intervened and pushed them off me and called the police. And I've never felt so much emunah in that moment. And
Faith.
When you talk about being an artist and having real impact, like, that's what it was. I just felt, for me and for the Jewish community, especially here on the Upper West Side, I felt so many of us were really united. We had these posters, we had the stickers, we were putting one at an empty seat at our Shabbos table, praying for everybody, praying for your family, and the impact you have is incredible, and you should just be so proud of yourselves, and just very grateful for this work and for you, bringing it to all of us here tonight. So thank you.
Can I say something?
Thank you. Yes.
I want to say thank you for doing that and for putting yourself out there for us. And I try to tell people in the Jewish community this at some of these events, and especially hearing a story like that, I want you to know that what you put yourself through was not unseen or unfelt by my family, not by everyone in Israel feels that and sees that. And one of the first things, when my family was in captivity, the first 5, when they came out, right, they didn't know about what happened, and they saw the posters and they saw what was happening, and they told me, when you're in there, you feel like no one is going to come get you, like no one cares, because they don't know what we're all doing out here. They had no idea, and they said that coming out and seeing all of those posters and them and their children's faces all over the world meant everything to them. It meant everything to them to know how much people cared. So I want you to know that everything that you did had a lot of meaning for my family and for all of Israel.
Thank you. What more can people do? What's next?
We need to keep the pressure on. The deal has to come through. There are a lot of off-ramps for this deal, a number of them, and they're all political. And a lot of that politics, obviously, I don't trust Hamas to do anything but I don't trust the Israeli government at this point either. So I need everyone to stick with us and keep pushing for a deal. We can't slow down. The trickle of hostages will come out, but the war has to end for all of Israeli society as well. And every single person has to come home, including everybody. We need Omer back. His family must bury him. So we all have to stick it out together and keep fighting for the deal to make it through its entirety as soon as possible.
Thank you. Anyone else? Last comments? What people should be doing? How people can support this?
Come out on Sunday morning at 11 o'clock.
There is that, yeah.
Thank you all for being a part of this. Thank you for being here. Thank you, folks. Get home safe, stay warm, and we'll see you soon. Have a good night.